So one of the most exciting pieces of news from that meaty TWAB Bungie just put out was that exotic primary weapons are getting a massive 40% damage buff against minor enemies in PvE. At first I thought, well shit, who needs particle deconstruction? Mythoclast is never leaving my side. But that was quickly shot down on Twitter by DMG because Mythoclast technically already got that 40% damage buff and they are not doubling up on it. And that's a fair play, Bungie. I totally get that. But to be honest, and don't tell my clanmates this, I haven't been using particle deconstruction for over a month now, and Mythoclast still tears it up, so that's fine. But what I'm more excited about is how this will impact various exotic primary weapons which may have fallen by the wayside. 40% extra damage is not a small buff. This is going to make it almost mandatory to run an exotic primary to tear through those beefy red bars and GMs and into literal Swiss cheese and easier content. It's going to make exotic bows a guaranteed one-shot against these enemies, because how annoying was it before to leave a Vandal with just a sliver of health? Well, kiss that shit goodbye. And anti-barrier bows are going to be back next season, so this is definitely going to come into play. That's along with anti-barrier scouts, overload auto rifles, and SMGs, and we also know that the glaive will have an unstoppable mod. And I'm guessing there might be one or two more in the mix that haven't been announced. So Ticuu's Trinity Ghoul and Monarque are going to be much stronger next season if you need to deal with anti-barrier champions, but I've got a feeling that glaive will be glued to many of our energy slots when there's an unstoppable champion. So this means we're going to need to pair it with a primary exotic in the kinetic slot to cover either anti-barrier or overload. DMT might be the way to go when there are anti-barrier champions, especially a Vorpal roll with the 20% bonus damage it now gets on top of that. For overloads, the kinetic slot options I'm looking at are either Huckleberry or Monte Carlo, maybe even Sweet Business. If we go back to the energy slot, Symmetry or Polaris Lance are both going to be nasty to run when you need to deal with barrier champs, and Riskrunner or even Tarrabah to deal with overloads. But ignoring champions for a second, I'm looking forward to taking two other weapon types for a spin. The first is exotic pulse rifles, because all pulse rifles are getting another 10% on top of the 40% exotic primaries are getting for a juicy 50% total buff. Weapons like Outbreak Perfected, Bad Juju, No Time to Explain, even Graviton Lance are going to be absolute monsters in PvE. The other weapon type I'm eager to try out is exotic trace rifles, which are getting that same 40% damage buff as exotic primaries. Ager's Scepter, which is already a beast, it's going to be even more disgusting. Divinity is going to be much less painless to run when dealing with overloads. Ruinous Effigy gets getting its own buff to the damage dealt by guarding with a transmutation sphere by 66%. Overall, this is a fantastic change to really let exotic weapons stand out from their legendary counterparts, because let's face it, there was very little difference between some god roll primaries, which made it an easy decision where to run your exotic, but now it's going to be a much more interesting choice to make, and I just cannot wait to see how all these weapons will feel. Thanks for listening. I'll see you on the flippity flip.